Hi, today we're going to talk about Excel's latest lookup function, the XLOOKUP. This function has several moving parts, so bear with me and I'll try to explain as we go through the video. Okay, so to start with, we are going to assume you have a mini table like this one here, where we have a list of names, salaries, and what we want to do is try to look up what department they are in and what bonus percentage they should be earning. So we've gone ahead and downloaded some raw data from business objects, for example, and we're presented with a list of names, their start date, and the department that they are in. We then have a separate table here of the salary brackets and the bonuses that are assigned to them. Now, we could do a VLOOKUP, however the XLOOKUP kind of takes care of a few additional moving parts that basically make the lookup a little bit more secure and can kind of guarantee that you're going to hit the right result. So to start with, we'll just open up the lookup function. So by typing in XLOOKUP, open up a bracket, and then we're presented with these several moving parts. The first part we're looking for is the lookup value. So in this scenario, that's the name. We then need to show the formula where we are searching for that name. So into our raw data, select column A where all the names are. And then we have the return array. So unlike a VLOOKUP, we don't have to count how many columns. Instead, we can just select the column that has the results that we're looking for. So then in this scenario, it's column C. And now the next three parts to the function are optional. They're not necessary. So by default, this will return the first match for this name within the department. So for the employee Chris Smith, he is in the buying department. We can copy that down, and it's basically just pulled in for each of these employees where they currently, or what we believe to be their current department. Now, depending on your raw data, it might be straight from a database, and therefore, your names are a unique reference, or you have a unique ID that filters out duplicate records and so forth. In this particular data set, however, we have a duplicate record for Chris Smith at two different start dates. So in 2019, he was in the buying department, and in 2020, he's moved into a merchandising department. Now, this lookup, just by the standard three-part functions, has pulled back the very first record. So by default, it's gone down here from top to bottom and said, okay, find me the first match of Chris Smith and then bring back the department, which we know is not the current department. So with XLOOKUP, we can go a little bit further. And if I type it in, there we go, XLOOKUP. Our lookup value is Chris Smith. Within our raw data here, column A, we'll find the name that we're looking for. We want to bring back the department. This time, however, we're going to look at the three additional or optional parts to the function. If not found. Now this part of the function is really useful. So if, like me, you wrap things in if errors or if statements and things like that, this part of the XLOOKUP lets you basically add a piece of text or a number into the formula so that you don't have to use something like if error, right? So for this scenario, I'll just type in please check. Okay, then the next part is the match mode. And match mode basically means, well, there's four different parts to it, right? So it basically says, do you want an exact match? Do you want the exact match or the next smallest item? An exact match or next largest item, or a wildcard character? So if, for example, you only have the first name, You don't necessarily know the surname, but in your data source it has a surname to every record. You could use a wildcard, and we could use the first name as a part of the function, and then pull back every Chris Smith or the first Chris within the record, right? But for this scenario, we're just going to go with an exact match. And then the last part, which is the search mode, and this is what makes like XLOOKUP really powerful. So by default, most lookups always go from top to bottom, and they find the very first match, and there's the result. And basically Excel for years has basically just assumed that you want the very first record that you can find within a data set, and that's it, right? XLOOKUP now basically says, okay, well, if you don't want top to bottom, you could go from bottom top, right? So we can basically select -1 here, which basically means search from the bottom of the Excel document all the way to the top and find the first match from bottom up, right? So rather than trying to find the first match going down the list, you can find the first match going up the list. So for our scenario, we want to do this one. We want a -1. And then we close that off. Now we can see, if I copy this down our list, that Chris Smith was in the buying department and has moved over to merchandising. Kate hasn't moved. Daniel has moved from merchandising to operations. No move there, nothing, no change, no change, no change. So this two different ways of approach, right? So if you're just thinking like a VLOOKUP replacement, then that's a nice easy way to do it. It's also a nice easy way to do an index match without the need of having to nest different formulas together. And this version of the XLOOKUP basically allows you to be more descriptive over exactly how to find the result. Okay, so with that said, we now have the current department, but we need to get the bonus. Okay, so again, we can use XLOOKUP for this, and we'll open up our search. This time we're going to look for the salary within our raw data salary column here, so column H. Now I personally just select the entire column, but you could also select the range and then just anchor that in with the F4 function. We then want to return the bonus %, and then again I'll just hit F4 and that will put the anchors in place. The next part is if not found. Now if it's not found, we want that to be a 0, so we can just type a 0 in there. And then the match mode. Now this is why XLOOKUP is really good. So we don't want an exact match because some salaries might be between some of these ranges. Instead, what we want is to find an exact match or the next smallest item. And what that basically allows us to do is say, okay, if you're on £45,000 as a salary, what bonus % should you be getting? And that basically means if you're on 40,000 but under 50, you should be on 7%. So we want to find 45,000 in this list, which it won't find, but instead it will find the next smallest number, which would be 40,000, and therefore return 7%. So we want -1 to find the next smallest value. And the last part, which is the search function, we could sort this binary search in ascending order or descending order. Doesn't generally matter, because the way that we're doing this already within our match mode is to always bring back the smallest value, or match it exactly, or the next smallest. We don't need to worry about how we're going to search it, so I won't bother with that part. I'll just skip straight over it and just close off the formula, bring that back, and there we go. I can copy this down, and now I can do some checks. So Chris Smith has a salary of £25,000. His bonus is 3%. Let's just check. Chris Smith has a £25,000 salary, so he's between the 20 and the 30,000, and therefore his bonus is 3%. If I look at Kate Evans, 95,500, go to our data set, between 90 and 100,000, has a 20% bonus. And one more, Linda Bean, £50,000. Go down our salary list, £50,000, 10%, and she has a 10% bonus. So that's it, guys. It's probably one of the simplest and easiest ways of actually doing a lookup in Excel, and it's pretty accurate, as in you can't generally make too many mistakes with it. Just here I've written out exactly what those 6 moving parts are. So you have the lookup value of what you're looking for, the lookup array, or where you're going to find that lookup value, the return array, which is the results that you're trying to bring back into your document, the if not found, which is really good in sense of not then having to nest a lookup value inside of an if error formula, the match mode, so we can go for an exact match, we can do an exact match or next smallest, and next match next greatest. So that's like really powerful stuff. And the search mode, which obviously allows us to search for our lookup value top to bottom or bottom to top, but also allows us to sort the data within the function in ascending or descending order before bringing back any results. So as always, guys, if you found this useful, hit the like button, and if you haven't already, please subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.